I've gotten into it as an actively engaged board member, and I was not planning to do anything less. I have been a part of Florida School Board Association sessions where they're talking to those of us who are considered freshman board members, or rookies, I guess. And one person actually said that she recommends that in your first year that you kind of just sit back and watch. Well, Tom, you've known me a long time.
That's not the Allison Campbell model.
That's not at all why I ran for school board, frankly. And so I have seen firsthand that there are some things that have been missing from the board, just like I had said on the campaign trail, that the parent perspective was missing, that hearing directly from principals and knowing things directly from how decisions impact them. I haven't heard a lot of that from the board. And so I'm bringing that perspective and can tell you, I know you're going to ask me about one of these questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and head you off. One of the first things that I talked to District 1 schools, I've been to all of them, obviously, but I've been in almost all of them talking to all of their teachers and student body, or it's not student, but faculty and their staff. And I wanted to tell them right out of the gate, there were two decisions that happened after I was elected, but before I was sworn in. Those two decisions were the Christmas parade and the teachers union vote on how much they would get for raises.
Both which have aggravated the hell out of me.
Both of those issues happened in November after I was an elected school board member.
But not a member of the board.
Sitting in the audience watching the decisions
happening. You were a member-elect.
I was a member-elect. And so while I can certainly speak about either one of those decisions, and actually tried to have a little bit of dialogue with my fellow board members about the Christmas parade, that did not go anywhere, and clearly we know what happened to the Christmas parade from there. But the same thing with the issue with MEA and the teachers' pay raises and so forth. That was a decision that was made apart from me. So I can speak about my thoughts on it, but I did not participate in that vote.
The Christmas parade, just the utter stupidity of voting the Christmas parade down, I've hammered and talked about ad nauseum on this program, so we don't have to go back to that.
Okay.
Okay, my good friend Sue Mosley, she bent my ear a lot on that issue. We'll leave that alone because I've hammered the school board, and I knew that wasn't you. I knew when that decision was made. I hammered them for it as soon as it was announced. The teacher pay, I know you were not part of the negotiations that did originally the teachers said we need 4%, and all this stems from money that the governor has allotted and sent to the counties to say starting wages, salaries need to go up. Well, if starting salaries go up to where he wants them, up around $45,000, that's what some teachers that got 10, 12 years experience are making now.
Right.
You know, they did this in the NFL. Remember the last one, Sam, the quarterback for Oklahoma, and you're a sports person, so I forget his last name. But he was the last guy that made $50 million as
right.
Oh,
now Darnold?
No, it wasn't Sam Darnold.
No, I'm like, who are you talking about? No, I have to think about it. Sam?
He's the Sam that lost to Florida in the national championship game.
Oh.
That's how I remember.
Yeah.
But a listener will text me or something. Galen, you know, will text me or something with the answer. But he was the last quarterback to go number one overall and get $50 million. And then the veterans were like, oh, whoa. Right. He hadn't played a down in the NFL, and he's making more on his first contract than I've made my entire career.
Right.
So they stopped in the NFL, and that's what we're talking about here, is we're talking about a teacher with 12, and I promise you, I taught high school. I did all my the theory of block and the theory of how to run a classroom and all. I took all those classes. None of it prepared me for that first day when I was the only teacher in the classroom, and it was my classroom, my first rookie day. 5 years later, my fifth year, the last year I taught, I was so much better than the first day I taught because I had experience.
Absolutely.
Why would I want to be a teacher in Marion County if I can make $1,000 more than somebody's just starting?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say if you've chosen teaching as a profession,
you didn't do it for money.
You didn't do it for the money.
Right.
It's a calling, it's a passion, and we need more. We need more people who feel called to impact the next generation. And so,
but you still need money.
You still need money.
It's still a money issue.
Practically, there still is a money issue, and I understand teachers right now that have 2 jobs, 3 jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it, and it's unfortunate, and I don't like the way that it operates. You and I have talked a little bit about the governor making a a decision that now saddles the,
you have to do
you
this.
have to do it. We don't. So if teachers are complaining about it in general, well, go to the governor. I mean, so in the very beginning, we have to start it foundationally and say the governor made a decision that we're now having to see the ripple effects of that.
$700 million for new teachers, only $100 million for veteran teachers.
And so what's so interesting, and I would liken this also to the minimum wage debate, which we're not going to get into, but I would liken it to that as well, to say $45,000 in Citrus County looks very different than $45,000 in Miami-Dade.
100%.
And so while I appreciate state government and being able to dictate some of that thing on down, oftentimes there needs to be some proportionality looking at it to say, okay, cost of living in certain areas. I mean, starting teachers in Citrus County making $45,000, or Levy County. I mean,
if I had $45,000 in Williston, I'd be living high on the hog.
There you go. So, but if you live in Miami or Orlando,
I'd be working 3 jobs.
Jacksonville, Duval. I mean, It's interesting to think about it from that perspective. But going back to the initial conversation, I first want to tell anybody that might be a teacher, or obviously teachers are in school right now. So actually anybody who is a family member of a teacher, I received messages from 2 yesterday asking, weren't raises approved like back in January or something? So let me first start with this. The answer to that is yes. At least what was approved has been approved. But the school district's been waiting on that money from the state.
Department of Education.
Been waiting on that money from the state. So we received word yesterday in yesterday's work session that it looks like that money is going to be to us by about February 7th or 9th or so.
So teachers are going to get their back pay.
They are going to get it. It's going to take maybe a week to 2 for payroll to get all of it. I mean, we're paying 7,000 employees, so it's going to take some time to get all of that down. But we actually are getting the money, and we know when it's coming. And so in the month of February, you should see what you've been waiting on.
People don't, if you don't understand what she means, she said the raises were approved by the county, but then you have to send those raises that you approve to the Florida Department of Education, who then has to approve those raises as well before the state's comptroller will release the money back to Marion County.
Right. Yes, that's it.
That's it.
That's government. So
we said yes, but then the state has to say yes to our yes before they'll send us our money.
Right. So that is happening. And so in the month of February, those teachers that are waiting on those dollars, they can expect them sometime this month.
That's called bureaucracy.
It is. It is. And cutting through some of that red tape is exactly why I ran for school board.
Well, let's talk about what you said when you ran for school board, because I have a memory that sometimes politicians
won't
don't like.
Quit.
But you said there are places in the budget that you had identified that you thought there were some adjustments that could be made, that the budget had plenty of money or enough money, but that it was being spent incorrectly in your thoughts.
So let me back into that again, because you're putting the words in my mouth. So let me actually say the words. So we'll get this right on the record. But what I had always noticed for the year and a half I was attending school board meetings as a bystander in the audience and a candidate at the time, was that it seemed as if now it's $654 million budget that Marion County Public Schools has.
The largest of any budget in the county.
The largest of any budget in the county. That within those budget dollars, it seemed as if about 20% was all the school board really was voting on one way or the other, because roughly 80% of that budget is salaries and benefits.
Yes.
And so when you take a look, I said it's time for us to start taking a look at that 80%, frankly. But part of that is going to be teachers' raises and all of those kinds of things that we can talk about. But what I will tell you, and you and I were mentioning this just as I was walking in, I kind of want to back into the conversation by first saying I believe strongly that we have the right leader at the helm who's going to get us to start identifying some of the things that I had seen.
And you're talking about our superintendent.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about it just this morning whenever you texted me and told me to show up today, about the differences in an elected superintendent versus an appointed superintendent. And obviously, I just ran a campaign. I've just gone through an election process. I understand that Marion County citizens had to choose between 2 or 3 people who chose to run and enter the political arena. And it is not for the faint of heart. So I completely understand that. And for all of these years that Marion County has had an elected superintendent, that's exactly what we've had. We've had to choose from the people who chose to enter the political arena. Have those choices always been the people we would have handpicked? Not necessarily. So, and this is dating back years and years, not necessarily. And you're oftentimes you're choosing the lesser of two, good or bad. When you have an appointed superintendent, you actually are handpicking exactly what you're looking for in that person as a leader.
Yes.
And with Dr. Gullett, she has come in and really started making some changes that are needed in Marion County. And more than anything, she's starting to bring that level up to an area. She is telling our staff that we will be one of the top performing districts in the state. We will be producing top talent. We will be, not if we can, but we will. And this is her vision, and this is the future, which we should have had for a really long time.
100%.
So with saying all of that, what's happening right now, and actually just happened yesterday, is we're starting to budget and consider the budget from the staffing plan first. And with that staffing plan, we looked yesterday at school staffing plans, and principals may be in meetings right now seeing exactly what we saw. But it actually has a formula to it where it's not just pick up the phone and call somebody because you're friends with them and get an extra dean at your school, or get an extra unit for this, and I'm not saying that always happened, but I do know that it
happened more than it should have.
So now there's actually a formula to it where and it's based on student enrollment. Student enrollment dictates dollars. So we know that each FTE, each student counts for dollars. Well, now the school-based funding is all going to be, and how that staffing plan is laid out is all going to be based on funding too. Obviously, principals will have a little bit of discretion. They can make petition to ask for different things based off of certain needs that they may have, and certainly those petitions will be looked at very carefully and considered. However, when we start with the very fundamentals of saying, let's let the money actually follow where the students are, I'm a strong proponent for ensuring that we are putting the dollars with those frontline workers. If those teachers, custodians, food and nutrition workers, bus drivers, you name it, the people who are seeing, and I'm going to use the word touching, though they're not touching, but seeing and touching kids every day and impacting kids every day, that's where we need to start, because we're students first. So if we do that and make sure that those people are getting the resources that they need, then backfill with everything else. Same thing with the discussion about textbooks. We learned yesterday our English language arts textbooks, we're more than $1 million short of what we're going to need for the. Do you think those textbooks are important? Absolutely.
Little bit.
Do you think that our English language scores will be impacted by good textbooks?
100%.
Absolutely. So this is the kind of thought process that I'm having going into budgeting, and that's also what I see our superintendent seeing as a priority.
I know, and I've always said this, that superintendents should never be a popularity contest.
Absolutely.
And that's what elections are. Whether you like it or not, elections are popularity contests.
True.
Your friends, you get your base, you get your friends, you get the people who ideologically agree with you, they come out and vote for you. You don't have any craft to have any. Allison Campbell, I know what you did before you were a school board member. You were a PR person.
Still am.
Marketing, I know, but that's
right.
what you didn't take any education courses to become a school board member.
No.
You decided that you saw a need for a parental voice on the school board, so you threw your hat in the arena to run. We missed a great opportunity in this county 8 years ago now, 12 years ago, right in there, when there were 3 people running for school superintendent. Dr. Diana Green, who now is the superintendent of the Duval County school system, one of the largest school systems in the country. Wally Wagner, who had been over the bus depot and the mechanics and everything of the school board for a long time.
But came from the public sector,
right,
came from the private sector.
Right.
Yes.
And a football coach. The football coach won. And then, because of the vengefulness of his mindset, he demoted the 2 people that ran against him. One of them with so many credentials, and he made her the principal of Pheasant Elementary. That's what happens when you have an elected official instead of an appointed official. Not to mention that said superintendent and the last superintendent, Dr. Heidi Mayer, because they were elected, they only had to answer to the constituents. They didn't have to answer to the school board, and that's why they headbutted constantly.
Right. It happened. Absolutely. It happened. I can also say that another thing that you kind of take out the popularity contest a little bit when you have appointed. One of the things that we also had seen for many, many years in our district was, I'll call it, fruit basket turnover of principals.
Oh, yeah.
And this is about the time of year that they would start getting their boots shaking, wondering if I'm going to be here for another year.
Or am I going to get demoted to somewhere else? Am I going to get promoted?
Right. So as you know, on the campaign trail, I went and visited all 50-plus schools. I visited charters as well, so that's why I'm saying 50-plus schools, to talk to all those principals, and many of them said what they definitely wanted to ensure was, can I just be here to implement the vision that I have?
Schuler P. Cox. I know that name like it's one of my best friends. Schuler P. Cox. I can see his vision right now. He was a big hulking man in his 50s, balding hair, a tie that was too short for his white dress shirt that he always wore. And he had a booming voice that would make even the most disrespectful, bad-behaving children, mainly Tom Schmitz, quake in his boots. And he was at Norwood Elementary Public School 23 in Jacksonville, Florida, from the time I was in the 2nd grade till I went to the middle school in the 6th grade. And he was there for another 11 years after that at that same elementary school. Right. And Schuler P. Cox, you will talk to people that went to that school, and we all, where our lives were touched and the direction we took, all have an imprint of Schuler P. Cox, the principal at Norwood Elementary.
Absolutely.
That's what you're talking about needs to happen.
Absolutely. And so actually I had a conversation. One thing that I'm grateful for is getting face-to-face conversations one-on-one with the superintendent, and I have those every other week. So does every other school board member. And in my meeting with her this week, I asked that very question. Talk to me about principal turnover. Talk to me about what we're seeing. And she has already had a conversation with principals. There may be opportunities for a principal or two to advance to a different position if they choose to do so. Or I don't think we have any principals right now that are retiring, so I don't think we have any of that happening. But she has assured them that they're not going to be moving unless there's a great reason why they need to.
And that benefits children who know
Absolutely.
What the rules, what the regulations, and what the thought process of the head of the school and down through their administration, I mean, to expect year in and year out.
I had principals tell me that because they were in their couple of first months of the first year being there, and the one before them only lasted 6 months or whatever, and that honestly their staff had been there so much longer than any of the administrators that it was almost like the staff kind of said, we'll just wait you out because you won't be here much longer either.
100%.
And so that was happening across our district. I can tell you right now, it's not. It's not happening.
It's almost like we ran our public school system, and you worked in this industry for a while, so you'll know this. It was kind of like car salesmen are there, but the general sales managers come and go. And that's what our principals. Right. Think of principals as general sales managers. Right. And think of teachers as car salesmen, and that's what you had happening.
Right. Or the general manager, that the general manager would turn over every, couple. I mean, yes, you're right. I did work in that industry, and I know that those general managers are there for a reason, and they've been with that company for a long time, and they have the trust of the CEO, and there's not going to be a turnover. But
finance managers come and go.
Finance managers come and go. General sales managers, even to some degree, come and go. Because that's a whole different conversation. Right. But oftentimes you're going to promote your number one salesperson. This actually could go with the school district as well.
Of course.
You're going to promote your best teacher to be an administrator now. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they automatically become a great administrator because they've never had training in how to be an administrator. Yeah. Same thing with salespeople going to general sales manager or making them a leader. Just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader.
I tell you.
Sorry, that's a whole different conversation.
This was what North Carolina did, and I thought it was the greatest idea. And it would be something that maybe Marion County should look at. Every 3 to 5 years, and you had a 2-year window to do it, but it was every 3 to 5 years you had to complete it. every administrator that had a teaching degree, because some administrators don't have teaching degrees, they're clerical, stuff like that, but every administrator that had a teaching degree, every 3 to 5 years, had to go back and teach one semester in what their degree was in. So that way administrators know what happens in a classroom.
It's interesting you say that. I haven't brought that up much again because I had an idea, I guess, again, on the campaign trail. I'm an idea generator. I consider myself an idea generator. And so I had an idea, when I was in college, one of the most sought after classes on our college campus was general psychology.
What campus was that?
Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee.
There you go.
General psychology, because the president of the university taught general psychology, because he taught in the subject area that he knew. And it was one of the most sought after classes. It was difficult to get into that class.
Because you got the president of the university to teach you.
Right. And obviously his teacher's assistant, grad assistant, helped with everything, but he would be in every week teaching the class. And so I thought, what if we had principals almost serving as adjuncts in some of our classrooms, teaching a class in their subject area? Just one class a day. That's all I'm asking. Or maybe one class a semester, however that would look. And obviously principals have so many duties and responsibilities and so many things they have to deal with on a daily basis. And with COVID, that's changed even what they used to know.
A 50-minute class could be done.
Right. Well, it possibly at least even 1 or 2 days a week.
In the high schools, especially.
In the high schools, I think it possibly could be done. I love that idea. I don't know how practical it is to implement right away, but I don't think I'm going to let that idea go.
Allison Campbell, she represents District 1 for the Marion County School Board. We got so much more we could talk about. Can I have you back again sometime?
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
And I would be remiss if I let you get out of here without saying, I'm going to miss baseball season. They're going to start it late now. There's no comment on whether they're going to have minor league baseball or not again.
Don't get me started. They had already
the Daytona Tortugas.
They had already voted to try to get rid of the Chattanooga team that I grew up on. Don't get me started.
Lookouts, baby.
I know, Chattanooga Lookouts. That was one of the teams on their radar to eliminate.
I dislike the Chattanooga Lookouts because I'm a lifelong Jacksonville Suns fan.
That's right. Well, no, they're Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp now, right?
Don't start. Do not start. That's about as dumb as the Savannah Bananas.
Well, yeah, it used to be Savannah Sand Gnats.
But then, before then, it was the Savannah Cardinals. That made sense.
Right.
The Jacksonville Suns make sense.
It does.
Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Oxymoron for a baseball team.
It's kind of a trend in minor league baseball to have those quirky names. And that I actually saw the whole branding campaign, again, getting into PR a little bit. But no, that was a fun one to see come to fruition. Nevertheless, regardless of whether you like it, it was a fun brand.
I guess. Allison Campbell, she's with the school board, District 1. Thanks for joining us, Allison.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
That was Allison Campbell from the school board from her interview that she stopped by last Friday. I had a few emails saying that they had missed that interview and would like to hear it again, so we were able to bring it to you again in its entirety this morning as we wrap up a Monday edition of Ocala Talks. I want to give you a couple days in history, things that happened in history. This one right here, today, February 8th, 1910. That's right, February 8th, 1910. The Boy Scouts of America, which is modeled after the Boy Scouts of the UK, they are incorporated for the first time in 1910, right here in the United States, February 8th. Also, February 8th, 1952, Queen Elizabeth II formally takes the throne as the monarch of England. She's still there as the longest reigning monarch in English history. She's still there today. If you hadn't watched The Crown, very good show on Netflix, The Crown. That's all our time. I want to thank our guests today. I want to also thank you listeners today for being here. Same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow. See you tomorrow. WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pride.
A deadly avalanche swept 8 skiers down a Utah mountain Saturday, killing 4. The victims, all in their 20s, included 3 Salt Lake City residents. They were part of 2 separate groups caught in the avalanche in Mill Creek Canyon. 4 survivors, all men who ranged from 23 to 38 years of age, had dug themselves and the victims out of the snow before being rescued. Anyone that follows politics will tell you the Democrats' impeachment of President Trump has 0 chance of conviction. Senator Rand Paul, the Republican from Kentucky, tells Fox News over the weekend Senator Chuck Schumer's words has earned him an impeachment.
I mean, really, we ought to impeach Chuck Schumer then. He went to the Supreme Court, stood in front of the Supreme Court and said specifically, hey, Gorsuch, hey, Kavanaugh, you've unleashed a whirlwind and you're going to pay the price. You won't know what hits you if you continue with these awful decisions.
President Trump's impeachment begins Tuesday. USA Radio News.
We've all heard it. Eat healthy. But what does eating healthy mean? Sure, there are countless diets out there, but they contradict each other. Yet all experts agree we should eat a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. Whole fruits and vegetables are the perfect fuel to power the cells in your body, giving you the stamina you need to handle your day-to-day activities. And that's what Balance of Nature is. Whole fruits and vegetables delivered to you in a convenient capsule form for only 22 cents a serving. Our proprietary blend has no additives or fillers, just the full nutritional value of a variety of 31 different fruits and vegetables. Balance of Nature provides you with a natural energy boost without a caffeine crash, a 3 o'clock slump, or an early bedtime. Experience the Balance of Nature difference for yourself by going to balanceofnature.com or by calling 1-800-2468-751 and use discount code USA.
With our kids being out of in-person schooling for almost 1 year, everyone can agree it's time to reopen the classrooms. USA Radio News' Dan Naraki reports.
The CDC is expected to release new guidelines this week, giving school districts a blueprint for bringing students back into the classroom. President Biden said Sunday that it was time for schools to reopen safely, adding it would likely take fewer students in each classroom and new ventilation systems. Former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb tells